Greetings, I'm Hondo, and this is my review of the Empress bass compressor. My single chain for today is going to be a couple of different basses into my Trickfish 0.5K into Ableton, and the sound clips today are going to be a little bit different to really show off what the pedal can do, so I highly recommend some headphones or good speakers to listen through to really hear the differences. So let's get going. So the Empress bass compressor is the fourth Empress pedal I've had the chance to play. This one is built like a tank, just like the other three. This one might be the best looking though, because it has this classic car paint job to it, which looks fantastic under any kind of lights. The orange part down towards the bottom is kind of three-dimensional, and it feels really good under the hand. And over on the right hand side of the pedal, there are LEDs that give you an indication when you're playing of how much gain reduction you're getting and how much input of signal you have going into the pedal. So this thing looks awesome on the outside and is also very functional, which is very nice. So when you first pull this pedal out of the box, it might seem like it has a lot of controls on it, but they're all really intuitive if you already know how compression works. If you don't know how compression works though, I highly recommend you check out this video by Ben Jordan. It will probably be very helpful, and his channel is really cool in general if you are interested in music things. Specifically to this pedal, I'll also include a link below in the description to the manual that Empress did. It's really good, and it's easy to read, and it explains quite a bit about the pedal, so I definitely recommend you check that out as well if you have any questions. All that said, let's dive in. Starting on the upper left-hand side of the pedal, you have the input knob, and this knob controls the level of your input going into the compressor. Since there isn't a threshold control on this pedal, the input knob is going to determine how much of your signal gets compressed. So you'll notice the more you turn this up, the more compression you'll get. The output knob controls the overall volume of the pedal. So if you turn your input up to get more compression, you're going to want to turn your output down in order to keep your signal at the same overall volume. Or if you want to give yourself a nice little boost for a solo or a particular section of a song, you can turn the output knob up, and it will do that for you. Then we have the attack knob, and this controls how fast the compressor will reach maximum compression. So on the left, this will start compressing very quickly, and it will grab the attack of your signal and keep that from getting too loud. Then over on the right hand side, it'll let more of your attack through, which leads to a more percussive, snappier type of sound. The release knob will determine how quickly the compressor will stop compressing. Over on the left, it'll let go of your signal much quicker, and then over on the right, it will continue to compress for a longer period of time, keeping your signal a little bit more squashed. The mix knob will allow you to blend in some of your dry signal along with the compressed signal, which is really useful if you want to get some of the benefits of compression, but at the same time still be able to hear all of your playing dynamics. Then the sidechain high pass filter knob to the right of the mix knob controls how much of your low end the compressor actually sees. And the reason that this is important is because low end hits compressors a lot harder than the upper end of the frequency spectrum. So if there's something about the upper end of your bass frequency that you want to compress, you might not be able to do it properly because your low end is going to take up all the energy. If that's happening, you can turn your side chain knob up here, and then it will cut more and more low end out, so it'll let the compressor act on the upper half of your bass signal. This is super useful and very, very cool. The ratio switch will give you 3 different compression ratios: 2:1, 4:1, and 10:1. And essentially what this does is tell you how aggressive your compression is going to be, with 2:1 being very gentle and 10:1 being aggressive and getting close to limiting. The tone and color switch is very cool. In the middle, it doesn't do anything, but on the left-hand side, it will give you a bit of a mid-cut, and on the right-hand side, it will give you a boost to your upper mid-range. And in either of those positions, it will also give you a little bit of a saturation on top of your signal, which is really cool. And as a nice touch, Empress included some dip switches on the inside of the pedal, so if you don't want that harmonic saturation, you can turn those off with the dip switches on the inside, and you can turn it off for just one or the other or both, which is a very nice touch. Speaking of nice touches, if you want to have this pedal be an always on pedal, when you power it up and hold down the foot switch, you can actually switch whether it gets turned on engaged or turned on bypassed, which is really, really cool. So it's important to know what you're getting yourself into when you get a compressor. A compressor isn't a pedal that's going to drastically change your tone like a fuzz or a distortion or a modulation or something like that. It's a lot more on the subtle side. So for those of you that might not be able to hear it, I wanted to give you kind of a visual representation of what's happening to the signal. So here's a frequency chart of what the signal looks like without compression. And just in case you don't know how to read it, from left to right is low frequencies to high frequencies. And then from bottom to top is low volume to high volume. You can see here in this chart that around the middle, which is between 200 and 2000 hertz, is where most of the signal is with the compressor off. But here is a chart of what the signal looks like with the compressor on. And you can notice that same section that was kind of high is now a little bit lower, but the upper mid-range and some of the low end is a little bit higher now. And that is what you would be hearing in the compressor. It kind of brings in some more of the quieter parts of your signal and makes the overall signal a little bit more rich. And here's an overlay so you can see the general differences directly. The red line is before the compression, and then the green line is afterwards. So if I were you and I heard the sound clips earlier and I saw the equalization charts, I'd be thinking like, okay, it just sounds like an EQ. You know, what's different about this? And the thing is, the dynamic way that the compressor changes your tone is just amazing for a couple of different reasons. One, it makes your different playing techniques sound out the same up and down the fretboard. And what I mean by that is, like, if you go to play some harmonics or something like that, and then go to play some regular finger style, then maybe throw in some slap or some double stops or whatever, all those different techniques come out at a similar volume, which makes like your entire line sound a lot more cohesive and makes the band as a whole sound a little bit more solid, which is huge in my opinion. Then on top of that, the second thing that it also does is make the instrument itself feel a little bit more lively in your hands, and it actually makes you want to do stuff that you maybe wouldn't normally do. Like, for instance, I have fun slapping with this thing, and you know I don't like slap if you've seen any of my other videos, but playing through this pedal made me just want to play my bass all the time, and it made me want to practice, which is huge because I barely ever have time to practice. So I just can't say enough positive things about this pedal. It's really hard to kind of convey the way it makes your instrument feel while you're playing it. But, I've used a lot of compressors beforehand, and this one might be the best one I've ever used for that. And it's just, it's a game changer for me. Long story short, I'm putting this in my signal chain from here on out, and then it's always going to be on. So what I mentioned earlier about compressors kind of bringing up some of the more quiet part of your signals and even things out is also true when you use it with effects. So I wanted to show what this sounds like using it with a modulation effect, because typically I find modulation effects tend to kind of get lost in a live situation, and this compressor kind of makes them a little bit more strong and brings out some of the qualities in them really nicely. Also, I wanted to show how this would work coming behind an Octavbre pedal, because it brings in some of those like really low lows and makes the whole pedal feel a little bit more meaty and more punchy. And lastly, I wanted to show how this pedal will work with distortion, because distortion itself is a little bit of a form of compression, but if you use a compressor before distortion, what you end up doing is making sure the distortion always sounds the same because it's getting the same volume going into it. And then on the other hand, if you want to use a compressor after the distortion, you can actually make sure that the tone of the distortion might change, but then the volume doesn't change. So you end up getting like a thicker, a little bit more rich sounding tone of the distortion while still getting the changes in tone, which is a really cool thing. So I did that as well. Take a listen to these and let me know what you think. So overall, if you're somebody that's looking for a bass compressor, I really strongly recommend you at least get a chance to sit down and listen to this one, because this is very high on my list of bass compressors. I've never actually been a person to keep a compressor in my signal chain for very long, but like I mentioned earlier, this one's going in there and it's staying in there for the foreseeable future. Also, if you're somebody who's never really used a compressor before and it's kind of just like looking to get into one, I would also highly recommend this one because it sounds so good and it does such a great job at doing what you would expect it to do, that it's going to be easy for you to use in your signal chain. So whether you're, an advanced person or somebody just starting out looking for a compressor, either way, I say get this one. Also, one of the kind of hidden qualities of this pedal is that I think it can bring back some life to pedals or gear that you really haven't been using or kind of fell out of love with for a while, because it does such a good job of bringing up the nuances and the more quiet parts of a signal, that it can like let you hear maybe some of the things that originally made you like that piece of gear in the first place, but you kind of gotten used to over time. This will kind of like bring it back out to your ear. So this pedal is also really cool if you've got some old gear lying around, you kind of need to like spice it up a bit. You can grab this guy and probably do that. So that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe below and hit the little thumbs up and the notification bell. I really appreciate it. Also, down in the description, I have links for my Twitch and my Discord channel. I'm looking to build up a community over there, and I'll be doing some live performances of like looping stuff and performing with a singer on Twitch and the Discord. We're having a pretty good time over there, so it'd be cool if you could come over and hang out. I would love to be able to interact with everybody in real time. That said, I hope you're staying happy and hope you're staying healthy, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take it easy.